The engine is starting up.
For launch. GC, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Prop, go. GNC, go. Max, go. Eagle, go. Ecom,
go. Pending final steps to cabin link check.
3, 2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the Rift Nation Network, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you can need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Welcome to the Forgotten Library, where the books whisper, the shadows listen, and the stories refuse to stay quietly on the shelf. I'm your host, Christina Spencer. And each month, we explore one novel together. With 3 one-hour live episodes of immersive, read-aloud chapters. Followed by a live interview with the author who brought the story to life. So find your favorite comfy chair, a soft blanket, and a hot beverage. Light a candle if the darkness scares you. And settle in for story time. Welcome to this week's live episode of Horror, History, and Hauntings Library. Hey guys, welcome to Horror History and Hauntings Library. I'm your host, Christina Spencer. Um, Tonight, we are continuing with reading Eclipse Part 1 by Derek Barton. Before we do that, though, I have a couple housekeeping announcements and some big asks that I hope my people out there might be able to help with. The first thing I wanted to talk about real quick is I have the distinct honor of being asked to be the master of ceremonies for the Green Eggs Foundation annual Elkins Fright Night on October 16th of 2026. This year's theme is going to be Neon Nightmares. It's going to be a night of music, fun, and giving back to our community. The Green Eggs Foundation was created to inspire creativity, ignite a lifetime love for the arts and school-age children. Through engaging programs, inclusive spaces, and hands on experiences, the foundation nurtures imagination, self expression, and confidence in empowering the next generation of artists, thinkers, and dreamers. The story is deeply personal. On April 2024, Sammy to me, he was my nephew. He was a talented musician, a loving father, a wonderful husband. He was lost unexpectedly after a benefit show in his honor uh, with his friends and family. After that, they envisioned a way to keep Sam's passion alive with the arts by supporting local youth in the arts. This led to the birth of the Green Eggs Foundation. It's a 100% youth driven nonprofit commitment to providing music, theater, visual arts, writing, photography, and more to young creatives in our area. And if you want to get involved, you can let me know and I can pass it on to the foundation, or you can get a hold of the foundation directly at their Facebook group page. And if you want to help me out, there is a couple ways to do that. Um, of course, always monetary donations are accepted. It'll help fund instruments, getting it into these kids' hands, workshops, and programs for the local youth. Also, because I'll be emceeing the event, I haven't figured out if I want to do an auction or raffle yet. But if you have anything that you're wanting to maybe send me as a donation so we could raffle off for the event, of course, I'm more than welcome to announce your group, your if you're a band, if you're a show, if you're a paranormal investigation team, if you make movies, whatever it may be, if you want to donate something for the raffle, I'd greatly appreciate it, and I'll send you my address for that. Um, and also, right now, because the Fright Night is in early development, we're looking for artists and performers that would like to perform for free to raise money for to be a part of the event also. And it doesn't have to necessarily be heavy metal. It's a lot of heavy metal driven, but it doesn't technically have to be heavy metal. You could be a poet. You could be um, a different genre of music. You could be a comedy artist, whatever your performing art is, fire dancing, I don't know, and you would like to help out. It'll be in Elkins, West Virginia, April 16th. So please let me know if you're interested. The other thing that I'm helping out with, see, I'm busy. I'm a busy girl. Um, is I'm helping my friend Heidi McCack from Heidi McCack Films. She is producing an amazing multi-episode horror filmography project. It's called Wherein Lies Continue. The story basically is really super intense. Emma's been having psychic visions that turn deadly, and there's a twist. She's actually the killer. Her sister Melanie is on her trail, but does she know the truth? It's dark, suspenseful, and totally binge-worthy. Plus, Beatrice Bopple from Nightmare on Elm Street 5 is in it. Yes, that's the Beatrice Bopple. The perks involved, if you want to let her know that you'd be interested in being a producer, is an IMDb credit. You get an autographed poster from the cast. You get early episode access, and you can even get time on set. And we can even get you maybe a autographed photo with our of Beatrice Bopple herself. So if you want to bring this story to life and be part of something wickedly cool, message Heidi McCack directly, and let's make this indie horror magic happen. So thank you for your time letting me get through that. I know those two are big ass, but it's two projects I am passionate about that I'm trying to get the word out and see if there's anybody out there that's willing to help or provide any type of help with those things. All right. With where we left off in Eclipse Part 1, we finished Chapter 2. So far, as a quick synopsis, we have met Mitchell, the mild-mannered, gentle giant of a teacher that has dark fantasies. And when he gets into a car accident, a bad car accident, those dark fantasies turn into something more. And he starts referring to them as an alter ego named Vile. And they're pushing him to do dark things, which he does. And he no longer wants to go by Mitchell. His personality changes. He becomes Mitch. And he does his first kill in the first 2 chapters. So we're going to start off at chapter 3. And just to make everybody aware ahead of time, I am not going to finish the book completely. I always want to leave the audience with a little bit of mystery, so you can go buy the book yourself and finish it off. I know there's a lot more excitement to come, so let's get into it. I got to take these off because I'm blind either way. I can't see up close, can't see far away, and I can't find my readers, so bear with me. So, chapter 3. Let's make sure, yep, our music's on. Oh, we got to get Bob up here. What am I doing? There is the Bob Baruski. Maybe we'll turn up the music just a tad. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. There we go. All right. There we go. Chapter 3. Oh, and I need to check the messages real quick. And just so you know, I will be checking the messages when there's a break in the story. I don't want to keep looking up and ruin the flow of the story. So that's how we're going to handle messages. And we have one quick message from the author himself, Derek Barton. Hello, Derek. He says, hey there. This has been great. Appreciate all your talent and effort. And oh, thank you, Derek. He's been super sweet and understanding. I've had some growing pains with learning how to do this podcast properly. So I do appreciate everything Derek's done and the patience he's shown. So thank you, Derek. So let's start off, okay? Chapter 3. Bowden Corey tried to sit up straight on the oversized leather sofa, but it simply was impossible. As if he had gone through a time slip, he felt like a third grader who had been sent to the principal's office. In reality, it was just 26, with an athletic build and a shock of light brown hair. His blue eyes were alert. His smile was contagious. It was his first day downtown at the Chicago Police Headquarters. The small silver name plaque upon the captain's cluttered desk read Captain Hank Rawls. The man behind the plaque was heavyset, of medium height, and had spiky white and gray hair on top and in his goatee. The captain adjusted his glasses and pushed them further up the bridge of his nose. He was skimming over several papers in front of him. His next statement was not a question, more of a summary. I see it says you cut your teeth in the Philadelphia PA, and now you have transferred to Chicago PD with your promotion to detective? He stopped talking as he continued to read. Murmuring, he said, that's interesting. Your aunt has certainly made her mark. Bowden smiled, but the captain continued to ignore him. Finally, he slipped the paper back inside its manila folder. The man's face was creased with worried lines and the perpetual scowl. It's here in Chicago that counts. Nothing in Philadelphia. Got it? Yes, sir. Bowden nodded. I'm not looking for special treatment. Damn straight you aren't. The captain cut him off and launched his bulk from his black desk chair. He swept up the paperwork as he rounded the desk and waved for Bowden to follow. They left the captain's glass-enclosed office and marched through a massive open room. This was the detective's bullpen on the third floor. There were 16 desks paired off in twos. A majority of the desks were presently empty, those belonging either to the night shift or detectives out on calls. At the back of the room, a man sat in front of his laptop, a black phone cradled in his ear. "Look, if you're not home yet, then give her your cell phone and shut her up with YouTube or something. Come on, Kathy. She's only 5. She's not in charge, for Christ's sake." The captain sighed and rolled his eyes. He coughed loudly into his hand, startling the young detective. As he swiveled in his chair, the captain said, "This is Detective Brett Bendetti. As you can see, he's handling a very important case call." Bendetti sported a shit-eating grin across his face. "That's right, patrolman. Find where the drop-off is tonight, or you're not no good to me." He put his hand over the receiver. "Sorry, Captain. Didn't hear you coming. One of my informants is hassling the patrolman at the site." Rawls waved his hand in front of his face. "Stop. Hang up. This is your new partner, Bowden." Bowden extended his hand. "Detective Bowden Corey." "Hello there." Brett Benedetti wore a stylish black leather coat in lieu of a tailored suit jacket. There was a nice blue tie with his button-down white dress shirt and tan slacks. The clashing items, however, worked for him somehow, an introduction to his down-to-earth personality. He had green eyes and salt and pepper hair. The genuine smile he gave Bowden instantly set aside the rookie's first-day nerves. Benedetti shook Bowden's extended hand and muttered into the phone, "Gotta go, babe. Benedetti here has been recently transferred to us from the Vice Division. He served with them for 3 years undercover." The captain abruptly turned, and he marched away. He said, "Going out for lunch. Get to work, gentlemen." Once the captain moved out of earshot, Benedetti muttered, "That's the great walrus. Off he goes into the wild, untamed habitat." The two looked at each other and then shared a quick laugh at the walrus, who shambled off towards a bank of elevators. "You can put your stuff there. That's your desk," Brett motioned with his hand. Bowden slid into the black pleather rolling chair as he laid his dark gray laptop bag down on the desk. An office phone matching his partner's sat in the opposite corner. "Are you working a case?" Bowden asked. "Actually, no. It's been unusually slow. Are you anxious to catch your first homicide?" Bowden grinned. "That obvious? Guess that makes me kind of weird, but you have a lot of eyes on you, being so young and a rookie," Brett answered. "Among other things. Before Kathy, I didn't get an interesting call. Before Kathy, I did get an interesting call. There was a suspected break-in at a warehouse in Cicero early this morning. It was empty when the patrolman searched it. My former partner thinks it's connected to one of our older cases. However, he's out. Hurt his ankle last week in a foot chase. Anyway, he called and asked if I would follow up on it. It's not technically in my jurisdiction anymore, but if it goes anywhere, I can kick it back over to my former partner. You okay with tagging along? One request. I got caught up in traffic this morning, so I couldn't make any pit stops. I sure could use a coffee. A real one. Mind if we hit up a place along the way?" "Not a problem." Brett opened his desk drawer and retrieved his wallet, keys, and phone. "Where to then?" "All right. I'm going to get a sip of my tea. Today we're doing regular tea with cream and sugar. What's your hot beverage of choice for the story tonight? I'm just curious. Do you have a special way that you make your tea?" "Okay. Kind of a drive, but it's on the clock, right?" Benedetti chuckled. The warehouse might have some hidden evidence we have been looking for." Minutes later, the pair were driving in his Buick Investa. The day had grown colder, but the heater was out. "That was some blast last night, wasn't it?" Brett asked, making small talk. He cupped his hands and blew into them, trying to warm his fingers. Yeah, did you get caught up in it? We only got 2 inches, maybe more, Bowden replied. He was busy looking at all the passing shops and businesses. Brett leaned over and opened the glove compartment. Hope you don't mind. He didn't wait for a reply as he retrieved a vape pen. Soon, watermelon and strawberry smoke wafted through the vehicle. They went deeper into the suburbs. The skyscrapers, the parks, and the fashion malls gave way to the cluttered residential homes, rundown hospitals, and dilapidated mom and pop shops. Bowden had lost interest and sat quietly in the passenger seat. He had dug out his iPhone and browsed a history site of Chicago. The road trip had grown long and tedious. You aren't much for conversation, Bowden, Brett joked, and then yawned. So, why Chicago, not Philly PD? Huh? Oh, well, my family has a bit of a history in the PPD, and I want to make my own name, you know? I get it. Another 30 minutes passed by. There wasn't much special about Cicero. The sky was overcast and gray. Few people walked the sidewalks, braving the chilled winds. Benedetti pulled his sedan into an alley next to a mechanic shop and parked the car next to a green dumpster. What are we looking at? Bowden asked as he craned his neck to get a better view of the street and the buildings through the rear window. Nothing too sketchy. A 3-story warehouse. The owner's out of state. An alarm for the side door went off this morning. When they contacted the owner, he stated the building was empty and had nothing of value worth stealing. He thought it was probably kids. It's taped up pending further investigation. Bowden asked, why do you think there's merchandise inside? The owner lives in New York and is connected with a suspected smuggling ring. He told the police not to worry about the alarm. Said he'll check on it tomorrow. I'm hoping we beat him there and we find out what he might be hiding. I see. It's a little thin. I know. But we have to run down all our other leads, Brett said. We will approach on the east side, which is near the back of the building. Once you're in, you can search the ground floor and I'll take the second. We are looking for crates marked Adonix. That's a retail company in New York. It's a front. They ship speaker components in from Germany. We suspect that the speakers are stuffed full of bricks of heroin. How did they get here in Chicago? That's the funny thing. Cargo inspectors pulled the shipments aside due to the suspicious nature of its travel from overseas. 3 men who tried to claim the property were detained and then arrested after the bricks were found. While the New York DA was arranging charges, file dates, and etc., one of the 3 men was found shanked in his cell. Then, poof, no one knew where the evidence went. Somehow, 4 shipping containers fell mysteriously through the cracks and all charges had to be dismissed. The murder was deemed a prison incident, which is also pending further investigation. In other words, they don't know and don't care. No evidence, no conviction, no glory. Exactly, Benedetti nodded and took a long drag from the pen. Bowden waved his arms in the cloud. Does this really help you, man? Sorry, he said and rolled the window down a few inches. Been trying to stop smoking for a few years. The vape is low in nicotine at least. It's a minor victory. Baby steps, you know. He shrugged. It's your car. Your call. So if you find these crates, then what? I'm not sure, honestly. It's more of a chance to get the heroin off the street. Plus, if there's a clue as to how it arrived in Chicago, then I can give my ex-partners some insight into the network and maybe they can do some damage. The perp who died in prison isn't my concern. Got your service revolver? Yes. Do you think someone's in there? Not really. It was probably just kids. My guess is that this was a dump site. The plan was to stay low, then they'll come back when the heat's been off of them for a few more months, and the crates can be transported back to New York City. He opened the door, got out, and dropped the vape in the drink console. Bowden stepped out. The clouds overhead were darker now, as spots of light rain began to sprinkle. There was no one on the street, nor anyone standing next to the gloomy warehouse. They crossed the two-lane street together and strode casually down the side, entering the east alleyway. The door was locked with yellow police caution tape stretched over the entrance. A wide garage door for the deliveries had been built next to the side door. It was left partially open above the ground. Benedetti pointed to the gap, then signaled for Bowen to be quiet with a finger to his lips. The man handed him a jacket, crouched, and then laid flat to roll inside. Bowden grew uncomfortable as he realized that the pair did not have a search warrant. He hadn't thought to ask Brett about it. The lock clicked. The door opened. His new partner stood, a wide grin on his face. Easy peasy. We need a warrant. For what? We're detectives. This is a crime scene, see? This is a fact-finding expedition. If we find anything, we can leave it and call it in to my ex-partner who can act upon it. If there's nothing there, it saves him time and face. Either way, he owes me a future assist. Sunlight filtered down through the snow-covered skylights. It did little to illuminate the gloomy interior of the warehouse. Bowden nodded at Brett and set off down the short hallway to the right of the entrance. A large bay, with 3 long ramps that descended into the docking bay, was empty and filled with beer bottles and old paper plates. A discarded and torn sleeping bag was abandoned on top of the bay. Wooden crates were stacked along one wall and had no stenciled labels on them. 2 adjoining offices were built along the back of the dock. They appeared empty. On the other side of the ramps were 2 other closed doors. One had a sign marked storage, while the other had no signage at all. Bowden walked around the circumference of the ramp, heading for the closed door. As he approached, he heard the sound of an engine starting up. Through a dirty set of windows, he spotted 4 young men in dark black or gray hoodies, loading crates into the back of a van. It was parked in the alley behind the warehouse. Benedetti. Nothing. Benedetti, where are you? Do you copy? Over? The light on the top of his walkie showed no activity on the channel. If Brett were talking, but the signal was not strong enough to carry his message, it would flicker. Suddenly, Bowden heard a crashing of serious thuds above his head, and then a muffled shout. He bolted back down the hall to the stairs, going to the second level. At the landing of the second floor, he spotted 3 more of the young men, 2 Hispanic males and 1 white male, running in his direction. 2 others were tangled with Brett on the floor. Drawing his gun, he faced the trespassers, charging in his direction. Freeze! Chicago police, stop! Hands up! His shaky commands didn't get much attention. 2 of the men darted down a side exit hallway, and the last slowed down in surprise at seeing Bowden. However, he decided to take that chance and continue to rush at him. I said stop! I'll shoot! A fist come out of nowhere and nearly caught Bowden square in the jaw. He lunged backwards as if it crossed in the front of his face. Only his trained reflexes prevented the strike from connecting. One of the 2 other males had circled behind him and approached from another hall on the left. The white male leaped and wrapped his arms around his legs, toppling all 3 down the stairs. As the 3 hit the first floor landing, the young detective maneuvered his fall to land on the man on his left. He heard the breath whoosh from the man's lungs as he landed. The one who had tackled his legs had a bloody nose from the fall and looked dazed from hitting his head against the wall. Both males were teenagers. Bowden noted. The third youth sped down the stairs, looking past and ignoring all 3 of them. Bowden accepted that loss. He had no time to give chase. His partner was in trouble, so he fled back up the flight of steps. One of the teenagers was flat on his back with a bloody lip and bruised cheek. His eyes were closed. A black walkie-talkie lay in pieces by his head. Brett still struggled with the second teen, a large black youth, husky with broad shoulders, probably brought along to be the group's muscle, you know? A broken bat lay near the two combatants. Bowden sprinted up and placed the nozzle of his revolver against the back of the boy's skull. Get off him and keep your hands high. The youth froze, but hesitated to follow the commands. Bowden kicked him in the ribs, sending the teen sprawling into the floor. Brett rolled in the opposite direction. He then pulled himself into a sitting position and, with his back against twin stacks of crates, marked Adonix along the wall. All right, that ends chapter 3. Let's check messages. We have one from Howie. Woohoo! Having dinner listening in. Thank you, Howie. I appreciate that. All right, let's get another sip of tea. And feel free, guys, leave messages in the comments if you like this format. If you have any ideas of things I could change to make it better, I'd love to hear them. So, in other words, let's move on to chapter 4. Bowden hesitated. He stared intently at his cell phone lying on the desk as if he expected it to come alive and ring at any minute. Sighing in confusion, he picked it up and punched at the contacts button. He focused on her name, Lindsay Corey, Aunt Linz, as she preferred. He swallowed and continued to stall. He was unsure why he was so nervous about calling her. She never judged him or gave him lectures of any sort. If anything, she was always a fountain of support and motivation. Her advice had led him to start his law enforcement career in the first place. Being an officer, then a detective, had worked incredibly well for her, and she felt it would be beneficial to him as well. The phone rang 3 times, then went to voicemail. Hey, Aunt Linz, it's Bowden. Give me an incoming call indicator beat through. She was already returning his call. He switched over to her line. Hey, she said, sounding breathless. Sorry, I was hauling groceries in, and my hands were full. What's up? Yeah. He lay back on the black couch and sipped from a plastic bottle of water. Give me a moment. He heard the paper bags crinkling as she dumped them heavily on their kitchen counter. Then more sounds as she opened and closed her refrigerator door. He waited patiently, glad for the pause to collect his thoughts. She swiped up the phone and continued to sound breathless. How was your first week? Her words were tinged with excitement. He heard ice cubes clink in a glass, followed by pouring sounds. Well, not so good. I got suspended for a couple days. Oh, bloody hell, Bowden. What did you already screw the pooch? How did you already screw the pooch? Her words caught him off guard, and he burst out with belly laughter. It was inappropriate for him to act this way, but all the inner tension and turmoil he'd been holding inside just gushed out. She waited in silence and didn't interrupt him. When his laughter stopped, she asked, Feel better now? Yeah, sorry. You needed that, huh? She asked, but didn't wait for an answer. Bowden heard a snapping sound and clicking as she lit up a cigarette on her end. That's not good, he said. You start smoking again? Yep. But you don't get to derail the topic. What's going on? Spill it. Well, my new partner, a guy by the name of Brett Benedetti, and I went to investigate this warehouse. It was possibly involved in drug hauling. It wasn't his investigation. We had no legitimate reason to be there. Benedetti was going in as a favor for an old partner of his. Anyway, we got jumped by a group of gang members known as the F-15. You all right? Yeah, just bruised a bit. Benedetti took the worst of it and is recovering in the hospital for the next few days for observation. She took a deep drag from the cigarette. I'm waiting for the good part. I had to let most of them go to stop the teens who were beating them. They took away all the evidence that we were hunting for. My captain was irate. She said, He said that we wasted police resources. Also, we probably made the city liable for an excessive use of force from the families of the two boys we arrested. I'm on suspicion, or I'm on suspension until my partner gets out of the hospital. He doesn't want to force someone else to supervise me. This will also be going in my file. Bowden had his face in his hands by the end of the summary, and the weight of the world crushing in on his shoulders. That it? She said with no emotion. You aren't leaving anything out? No, but I really messed up. No, kid, not really. It feels like it, I'm sure. For one, you saved your partner from even more serious injuries. Two, it's only a suspension. It's easy to do. Cop life isn't simple. Every day, you'll face complicated situations and scenarios where you will make split second decisions. I would guess you were suspended more on the fact that they didn't trust you alone and had no one to put you with. It was a simple solution. Your captain is an asshole for trying not to work it out. He took the easy way. He's no fan of yours either. Huh? Bowden took another drink of water. He wished he had a bottle of whiskey instead. He threw your name at me, saying that hiring me was just a city PR stunt. Your name is getting recognized across the nation as the upcoming motivated female detective. He then said the city now regrets it for sure. Not just my actions, but something about the case going south on your end and disgracing the whole force. She didn't answer. She only took a long drag from her cigarette, and finally she muttered, Wow, I didn't pull any punches, did he? I have been so absorbed in my training, and then the transfer here, I don't know what he's talking about. Do you have a bad case? You just found the nurse catcher after all. She took a moment or two before giving her tale of woe. I'm I'm having a hard time finding the words. It was supposed to be simple. The nurse catcher, Torv Larson, was due for extradition, and I was to export him from the airport to headquarters for further interrogation. I never made it there. Hold on, let me have another sip of my liquid courage. She giggled weakly at her small joke and then continued. My car had died in the parking lot. Two patrolmen, Sean and Josh, offered to take me. However, on the way there, an emergency stop had to be made. A kid was found abandoned near downtown. This kid, Rory, had been missing for over 3 years, and at the time of his disappearance, the boy's parents had been murdered mysteriously. She coughed, then took another drink from her glass. Then there was a click of her lighter as she lit a new cigarette. It wasn't like her to be so emotional. Whatever occurred had deeply impacted her. He remained patient and didn't pressure her, but his concern grew. Some people started confronting us. They were after the kid. We managed to escape and hide in an abandoned subway station. Some backup arrived, but it did little to help. She paused again. He heard soft sobs. Boughton, did you hear anything about the Philly City riots? A little. Something about a mob in the poorer districts causing some destruction. Yeah, those people. The ones chasing us were the mob. They were trying to kill us. They were not human, Bowden. What? They were demons, she exclaimed, and then took a deep, steady breath. Are people possessed? And not possessed like those in the stupid movies. These people were changing, mutating, or something. They gained strength and had like a hive-like intelligence. Anyway, I know I sound crazy. I wouldn't believe you if you said this, so I'm not asking you to believe me. She sniffed, smoked, drank, and sat in silence. Aunt Lynn's, I don't know what happened that day, but I do know what you've been through before. You're the most level headed person I've ever known. I know something very unusual rocked you, and to do that, it would have to have been something pretty unbelievable. So put that aside. So put aside the demon angle. Why are you in trouble? Well, the nurse catcher somehow escaped while I was in the mess of the riots. We rescued the child, but many officers were killed or seriously injured. Everything revolved around me, and it appeared that I'm the city's fall guy for the mess. I'm on suspension. I don't think I'll be coming back, Bowden. In fact, I don't want to. I want Torov. He's still killing. I want to find and stop him once and for all. I can't do that, hampered by bureaucracy and laws. You can't throw it all away over this. What? Are you quitting to become a private detective? Maybe, something like that. All right, that was the end of chapter 4. We do have a message from Adam. Hi, Adam. Hey, hey. Nice to see you. I'll take some sips. Chapter 5, Halloween, October 31st, 2025. It was an Afghan. That same damn dog, Mitch mused. His hand was up, holding a thick stick of white chalk halfway through listing the day's assignments. It had only been 2 weeks since his return to the classroom. Once, at age 3, he had been mauled by an Afghan. Nightmares of the dog chasing and hunting him plagued his sleep for years. Now the sudden flash of memory had derailed him. He recalled a blur of orange-brown fur lunging forward and crossing the icy patch of the freeway. He hadn't had any memory up until now of the incident. Doctors told him he lost control and slid into a large tree. Friends and family told him he was lucky to be alive. Mitch didn't feel lucky. He felt robbed. He felt cursed. He did remember the pain upon waking up, then the endless hours, days, weeks of physical therapy to recover what was considered normal function. Leaving the school, waking up with half of his body lost to him, fighting to return to himself, that was not luck. That was a punishment. He had regained most of his hand movements. His thumb was at last fully cooperating. His walking had been restored except for a slight limp. On days he was partially fatigued or overexerted, he walked with a cane. It was relatively costly and featured a black enamel headpiece and a beveled shaft. It was durable, but it was more of a showpiece. Mitch decided that if he had to have one, then at least it should be distinctive and impressive. Little by little, fragments of his day's events had returned as he improved in the acute rehab facility. One thing that had not resurfaced was that inner voice, that gravelly voice specter, vile, who urged violence, wanted bloodshed, or pushed him to explore his darkest desires. Seemed to have given up on Mitch. Since that afternoon in Dwight Coronel's patient room, nothing, not even the slightest of whispers since he refused to kill the sleeping elderly man. Newspaper reports cited his accident as being due to a terrible road condition or terrible road conditions. No one mentioned a dog, the cause of it all, the cause of all this. But I know it was there. That fucking munt. The whole breed needs to be put down. Gasps, shock, laughter, and whispers cut off his uttered words. Mitch glanced over his shoulder at his fifth hour history class. All of the students were staring wide eyed at him. He coughed with amusement. My apologies. Got caught up. Anyway, tomorrow please complete your 200-word essay on Varner's impacts of the Cold War. Next week, we will be starting chapters 7 through 10 in your texts and begin to study the computer revolution in America. The students slowly regrouped and gathered their papers and books. There were only 5 minutes left for the period. He coughed into his hand again and picked up the stack of loose papers from his desk. Before you leave, I want to hand out the test from last week. Everyone stopped and held their breaths. They knew what was coming. Unfortunately, on the whole, most of you didn't fare well on this one. I'm not sure why, but there is definitely some confusion over the Kennedy administration material. While I cannot go back over it or let you retest, I'll be offering up some extra credit assignments for those who want it. He shot a glance at young Corey James. The athlete returned fire with a sour grimace and fire behind his eyes. The test had been a colossal disaster for him, and they both knew it. At the same time, he handed out the last exam. The school bell rang and the period ended. A line started at his desk for those who needed the extra credit assignment. Corey had not stayed to line up. The day marched on without incident. He was hungry. Darning his homemade subs on Fifth Avenue, he questioned himself as he walked stiffly to his car. When he passed through the metal doors to the parking lot, he immediately spotted trouble leaning up against his rental Ford pickup. Corey waited, arms crossed, with his red and white Letterman jacket unzipped. "Forget something, Mr. James?" "Prick," Mitch thought. The jock spat upon the ground, brazenly near where Mitch was approaching. "I think you know why I'm here. Your bullshit has got to stop, man." "I see you've forgotten your place. You will not use that tone and verbiage to address me. No, you need to understand. Principal Jacobs and Coach Filson understand what I can do for this school. They know what I bring to the football team. We'll go to state and even win it for the first time. Why can't you see you're throwing that all away?" Mitch sighed and stopped in front of him, listening to the tirade. "How am I throwing anything away?" In his mind, he thought, "Stupid pissant. I can't flunk any classes. My grade average has to be a C to remain on the team. The school board will enforce it. Your last exam was nearly impossible. Just because you have a hard-on for history and politics doesn't mean a normal person has to. No one should have to study this much about the past. It's stupid." "I see. So, because you didn't get an easy test and failed, I'm the one throwing away your opportunity to shine on the field. Is that your point?" In his mind, he thought, "Your thick skull can't comprehend." Corey lurched forward suddenly and leaned into his face. "See, now you're getting it, smart guy. That wasn't so hard, was it?" They met each other's gaze. Corey stood just a bit shorter, the dank smell of weed on his breath. Anger boiled in both of them, but something else stirred inside Mitch. "Back up," he growled low. "Make him," Vile whispered. "Excuse me?" "I said back up. Back the fuck up now." Corey's hands shot up and struck his chest. It was meant to rock him, but Mitch had anticipated the punk move. Vile screeched in his head, "Now! Don't take that! Don't let this puny runt think he can lay a hand on you. Make him understand." "Is that all you got, little boy?" Mitch sneered. "I'm going to." The cane flashed, and its head caught Corey squarely under the jaw. The round headpiece broke from the strike and rolled under the truck by his tires. Teeth cracked and shattered as lips and tongue were bitten and pierced. The jawbone was likely chipped, but had not been broken. Blood drooled down both sides of his mouth. The boy fell backwards, gagging and crying out from the pain. He writhed on the ground between the truck and the other parked cars. Mitch took a quick scan of the lot to be sure no one else saw their interaction. It was empty and quiet for the moment. He knelt on one knee and leveled his broken cane again at Corey. This time it was directly in front of his right eye. The teen stopped writhing instantly, sensing and then seeing the pointed, cracked shaft. "Be very careful. This is pretty sharp now. I wouldn't want the chance rolling and getting it stuck in my eye if I were you. You will also want to be very careful about what you say and do for the rest of the day. Your next actions or conversations could also get you into some serious trouble." As he threatened, the pointed inched closer and closer. It shook slightly in Mitch's grip. "Do it. Plunge. Poke that punk ass in his eye," Vile said. I hope we understand our places now. I do not take well to threats or abusive language from those well beneath me. Are you paying attention, Corey? You better be. He lifted and placed his knee with force on the boy's right hand. A popping, cracking announced at least a couple broken knuckles. He slapped a hand over Corey's mouth to mute his shrieks. Vile spoke through his lips. If you say one word on how you got hurt today, I'll know. I have your address, where you and your family live, and I know what you drive. Don't think you can hide. Don't think that at all. I'll chop you and your parents into so many pieces they won't recognize what belonged to whom. Mitch heard footsteps and laughter from the other end of the parking lot. He rose and opened his door. Stay here until I leave. Just tell everyone you accidentally fell on a patch of ice. Those patches have been getting the best of us lately, he chuckled. The truck's thick tires rolled inches past Corey's still form as he left the lot. Mitch looked into the rearview mirror and watched to see if the boy had compiled. Watching to see if the boy had compiled. He caught sight of his reflection. The menacing grin and wide smile stunned him. A swirling madness behind his eyes. A laugh bubbled out. That's more like it, Mitch. Well done, celebrated Vile. But next time, roll over his legs. The voice came through his lips again, and it sounded alien to his ears. There was a deep, dangerous inflection. The promise of pain bled through. The voice scared Mitch as much as it excited him. So that's chapter 5. I want to read at least 1 or 2 more chapters tonight. Yeah. Chapter 6. Mitch stood stiffly before the mirror. The gray-green shirt was taut across his chest and around his neck. The gold badge pinned to his chest was a nice touch, even if it was completely fake. He didn't need it to be authentic. No one that close to him would have time to check out his legitimacy. He lifted the dark sunglasses further up on the bridge of his nose. They were mirrored and very stereotypically cop-like. But when he saw the thick brown beard glued with spirit gum on his face, he burst out laughing. Shaking his head, he dismissed the ridiculousness of the costume and tried to get serious. He pulled on the slacks and fed a leather belt through their belt loops. After lacing up his black boots, he stepped in front of the mirror again. From a short distance, he was pretty convincing. Mitch turned and walked down the long hall in his bedroom. To his bedroom. The full-length mirror was placed at the other end. With a confident swagger and an air of authority, he stalked toward it. After watching several hours of TV show Cops and several more hours practicing, he was confident he had the walk down. A black Glock sat with a box of bullets on top of his oak dresser next to a wide-brimmed felt hat. The gun was real. He had no true intention of using it, but it was his backup plan if all went to shit. You're a changed man. Your luck has also changed, Mitch, Violet assured him, the voice gravelly but yet smooth as silk. You won't need that gun. All will go point by point, just as we planned. You had changed, morphed, or maybe mutated was a better term. No. You've eclipsed your former life. Your dark is devouring the light. It was true. He was not the gentle giant anymore. That Mitchell Michaels died against a tree months ago. That man was a fake, artificial, made up, a pure hoax. He lived by society's rules, played by their norms, and strived to meet their standards, all to keep his true nature hidden. He never showed his dark necessities. Mitchell could never explore the darker world he craved. You never lived. That is, until now, Vile whispered. Mitch nodded in agreement at his reflection and acknowledged the inner words of truth. I will not let them hold me down ever again. Tonight, I will exist and show you all true death, motherfuckers. He spat out with his teeth bared and hate burning in his eyes. Yes, Vile purred. He turned and went to the dresser, swiping out the gun, bullets, and a notepad. He opened it and removed a small pen attached to the cover. At the top line, he wrote, Sheila Glenn, White Camry, I-57. He paused, then added, Gary Glenn, 373 Ashley Court, Long Grove, Illinois. Next to the dresser was a small work desk and laptop. He plopped down and shook his mouse to wake it up. The screen displayed a dark seascape with thunderheads rolling above choppy waves. His emotions felt like that, a harsh storm full of flashing energy and bolts of electricity, ready to rip through the air. After a few keystrokes, he found the site again. It was a dark web page meant for desperate measures and for the desperate times. Desperate men seeking illicit sex, torrid fetishes, or even foul murder. He scanned the page a bit. A few days before, he had listed his contract info, a burner cell phone, and a handle name. Vile. Now it was time to remove the only link to him. He didn't need the web as a permanent source. He advertised there only to get his first target, a call to action to force the chain of events. Sheila Glenn. If you aren't my first, then there will never be another. He decided it was do or die as he glanced over at his preparations in the master bedroom. The shower curtain was removed. Bottles of bleach were lined up on the floor. A towel with 5 large butcher knives in a row were placed with care on the countertop. Rolls of duct tape were stacked, and a white tarp was folded on the toilet seat. Vile whispered, We have worked every scenario. Focus on the reward. To feel her hot blood washing over your hands as you squeeze the life from her. Focus. A rumble shook his condo walls. The rumored fierce storm that the weather channels had all predicted had come to fruition. Rand would help hide any small flaws with the cop costume. He stood again before the mirror. They were ready. He and Vile grinned at one another. It was fast approaching the hour of his hunt. Mitchell's fingers fondled subconsciously at the set of black zip ties tied to the belt. 5:17 a.m., November 1st, 2025. He did it last night. He crossed over that crucial line. Murderer. The skyline brightened further from a dull beige to a faint gold aura on the horizon. Rays peeked out from between the leftover storm clouds. The soft patter of random fat drops played a staccato solo on the rooftop of Mitch's car. None of this registered to him. All of his senses were locked in, everything internally smothered as he relived the night before over and over in his head. Balled up in his fist, he had Sheila's thin necklace with a small gold crucifix that bit into his skin. When her body had quit twitching, her last struggles of life and breath ceasing, he opened Sheila up with a box cutter from his pocket. First, he drew long lacerations down her arms and across her wrists. The blood was barely moving due to the last feeble pumps of her heart. Then he split her jeans and opened the arteries in her thighs. He crawled inside the trunk, going face to face with her, pressing close to her corpse. He used the blade to cut her throat, nearly decapitating her. The blood flowed slowly, mixed with the rain. He scooped some into his hands, smeared it onto his skin. He laughed and tucked his face under her chin as he snuggled close like a lover. The oozing, warm liquid ran down his nose and chin. His tongue hesitantly flicked out to taste its metallic flavor. Mitch rolled in the growing pool. He felt like a dog squirming on its back when it found a scent in the backyard grass. He coated himself, slapped it on his arms, splashed it on his face, needing more. He clasped his large arms around her and squeezed. They were entangled in this morbid dance until he felt her body starting to stiffen. The onset of rigor mortis had been sped up by her blood loss. It broke through the fog of ecstasy he had fallen into. Climbing in with her had not been part of the plan. It was such an exquisite yet dangerous thing to do. Vile, this is beyond stupid, he screamed inside. He had been extremely exposed. There are two obvious vehicles pulled up onto the side of the freeway. Anyone could have come by. Yet at that moment, it hadn't mattered to him. He would have gladly died right then if it were required. His life's darkest wish had been fulfilled. Mitch had given in to his need. He didn't need to wait for Vile to suggest it. Now, in the early morning hours, he rested behind the wheel. His hands, face, and neck were caked with her blood. His whole being was wretched to behold. While the last of the rain had washed away most of Sheila's blood from his poncho and pants, it stained his exposed skin. He shook his head slowly. We cannot be that reckless. Yes, I know, the smooth, gravelly voice answered, yet ignored him. But you want to do it again. Soon. Vile, let me have control. I promise I won't let us get caught. But your greed will, okay? Mitch's eyes scanned the interior of his car. Splatters of blood, smeared handprints, runoff mud, and gore were everywhere. That strong, burnt smell of her flesh floated in the air around him. At the end, he had used fire to destroy any trace of himself in her trunk. He'd have to burn his car too, he realized. You aren't a teacher anymore. No, he agreed, and then sighed in relief and gratitude. Murderer. All right, we have one more chapter I'd like to complete tonight. Just bear with me one second here. Let's check messages. And Adam said, "Sound good." All right, thank you, Adam. I'm glad the sound's doing good, and you like the content here. All right, let's finish this last chapter. Chapter 7, 6:27 a.m., November 1st, 2025. Six rings, really? Post dispatcher Samantha Derringer's nasally voice bled through his cell phone and into Bowden's car. He was all alone, still dressed and partially covered by a cheap white sheet and blue comforter. On an inchy sensation manifested and wormed its way down into his brain, as if her irritation with him had come into an actual living existence. It greedily consumed his fog of sleep. It was 2:47 a.m. He could hear heavy raindrops pelted against his tiny bedroom window. A nasty bitch of a storm had set upon the region. Howling wind riled against the apartment building. Oh, sorry, huh? A sour taste in his mouth made him want to gag. It took you 6 rings. You're on call, detective, and that means at any hour. Wiping at his face and scrubbing his stubby chin, he took a deep breath and tried not to snap. He could share with her that he had just returned from the scene of a three-car pileup on I-88. The late-season storm had jacked up almost all the highways in northern Illinois, and he could relay that he had only walked through his door at 11:35 p.m., 5 hours past his scheduled shift. And then, some 20 minutes later, he had surrendered to the night on his lumpy mattress and wolfed down on a can of cold baked beans, while barely paying attention to the local newscast. All of his story was true and tragic, yet it would hardly be abnormal, and undoubtedly the seasoned dispatcher wouldn't have cared even if it had been his own mother in the pileup. At that hour, empathy and sympathy were minute commodities held by few. Yes, I'll keep the phone closer. What do you have? He said, trying to appease her. He caught a glimpse of his haggard face in the adjacent bathroom mirror. Had he lost weight? He wondered. She sighed loudly. You and your partner need to head up the scene of an 1190 on I-57. I'll send the exact pin to your GPS. What's your ETA? He bolted from the bed sheets as he repeated, At 1190? You sure? A possible homicide? Yes, Detective Benedetti will be on scene by 3:15. Your ETA, she asked again. Swiping up his badge, wallet, and keys from the bedside table, he stumbled about to the hall towards a dark foyer. I'm grabbing my shoes and jacket now. As Bowden slowed his silver Dodge Dakota to a stop on the side of I-57, an orchestrated dance of patrol officers, forensic techs, and medical staff swung into full view. They wove paths in and out, dipping and lunging around each other as they performed their specific roles and responsibilities. He studied their inaudible rhythm to the chaotic performance. Inside the confines of the truck, the crime scene seemed surreal. He remained motionless behind the steering wheel, temporarily in awe of the scene. This wasn't their first crime scene or even their first homicide. The pair of new detectives had already resolved several gang homicides and one botched carjacking. This, but this was different, he reflected. He could sense the extra tension in the air, see the raw nerves of the patrol officers, and feel the taut anxiety of the firemen and paramedics. Police barricades blocked off any traffic on both sides. 2 fire trucks, 5 patrol cars, and 1 ambulance were parked and clustered around a smoldering vehicle. Long plumes of charcoal-colored smoke towered overhead. Benedetti was talking with several officers, a notepad and a pen in hand. They stood near the smoldering remains of a once white Camry. The trunk was open. A slender young black woman, medical examiner Jasmine Cole, leaned inside. Her long braided hair was pulled into a high bun on top of her head. She kept resetting her wire-rimmed glasses on the bridge of her nose. He watched her preliminary investigation. Several techs were circling and snapping photographs around her. Bowden snatched his jacket from the passenger seat as he exited. Light rain sprinkled him as he approached his partner. The air outside remained crisp. His breath plumed from his nostrils. An acrid smell of burnt hair and charred flesh accosted his rookie detective. He slapped his hand over his nose and mouth. Through clenched jaws, he asked, "Brett, what do we have?" "You aren't going to be sick, are you?" "No, I'm good," he snapped defensively. He was good, or at least stable enough not to lose his last meal of baked beans. The smell was heavy and cloying. Its obvious source smoldered in the tight confines of the trunk. Okay, Brett nodded and drew them both closer to Cole. The vehicles registered to a Gary and Sheila Glenn of Chicago. The victim is a white female, approximately 5'2". He stopped and pointed with his pen, indicating a black, partially melted zip tie around the neck. The victim had been handcuffed too. There's an obvious laceration at the throat that could be the cause. Jasmine interrupted, shaking her head. "I checked already. There were no indicators of smoke or heat damage inside of her cheeks or the back of her throat." Bowden said, "So, you're saying she died before the fire was set?" Cole nodded. "No other sign of injury and no other victims?" Brett stated, and then waved for Bowden to follow him. They swung around 2 techies. Brett used his pen again to point at the pile of grocery bags and craft supplies tossed on the back seat and the floorboards. They were crushed and appeared stomped on. "There's a small puddle of urine here, and dog tracks. The trail of prints led into the forest brush. Tiny drops of blood mingled among the snow and tracks." "She had a dog with her," Bowden asked. "Yeah, it looked like it was hurt." With another click of his pen, he pointed at the spray of blood on the door handle. "Might that be our perp? Might have been bitten when he opened the door." He had no mercy for her, but wasn't okay with killing the dog? Cold asked incredulously. Brett shrugged. Bowden ignored them both as he slowly followed the trail into the brush. He didn't go far. The dog lay tightly curled under a fallen pair of pine trees. It was a red male Doberman, slender and lean. The old dog peered out at him, shivering in the cold. Splashes of blood painted the side of his head. A fresh cut ran along his scalp. "Hey there. Hey, Pooch," the rookie said softly as he sat on his backside in the piling snow. He knew not to approach the animal. 2 years ago, he had spent time training with the K-9 units. Eventually, he had decided to move in a different direction, but he valued his time with the unique animals. The dog was scared and would instinctively strike out in defense if he got too close. Did you get him, boy? Did you get a shot at whoever hurt her? The pooch whined in response. Brett crept up behind Bowden and handed him a baggie. Here, see if he'll eat my leftover sandwich. 15 minutes later, they had the dog resting among the blankets in the squad car. Brett shut off the car and sighed loudly and turned to face Bowden, who was in the back with the red Doberman. Hate this. Absolutely the worst part of the job. He smacked his open palm on the dashboard in emphasis. I've only delivered notices on a few cases. The hardest one I had was the time a patrolman accidentally hit and killed a kid in an alley during a car chase. He shook his head and rubbed the back of his neck. It was a single mom. She passed out right in the doorway. They sat in silence for a moment. It was 7:53 a.m. Long Grove, the suburban neighborhood, was quiet except for an occasional morning jogger. The dog whined and yawned, placing his head down between its paws. I'll take the lead, cool? Brett said. Oh, and let's leave the dog here for now. Moments later, the pair stood in front of a 2-story red brick home. The door was a wide, white monstrosity with twin shrub bushes on each side. A tall but heavyset man in his late 50s answered. He was mostly bald but had a pencil-thin mustache and a chin-strap beard with glasses. He held a brown coffee mug and had a cigar clasped in his teeth and a newspaper tucked under one arm. You better not be trying to sell me something at my door this early in the morning, he shouted as the door swung open. Brett flashed his badge. I'm sorry, no. Are you Gary Charles Glenn? Mm-hmm, he mumbled as he drank his black coffee. I'm Detective Brett Benedetti, and this is my partner, Detective Bowden Corey. He paused, braced himself, then carefully said, I'm sorry to inform you, but your wife... Soon to be fucking ex-wife, thank you, Gary interrupted. Brett stopped short, thrown off by the sharp words. We're going through a divorce proceedings. Bowden said your wife was killed last night. Gary stared at them, not saying anything. His face was emotionless. He stepped out of the doorway onto the steps with the officers. He closed the door behind him. My son is having breakfast. Let's keep it down. I'll break the news to him myself, okay? Brett tilted his head a bit to the side. You didn't report her missing? And honestly, you don't seem too upset, Mr. Glenn. The man drank deeply from his mug once more before saying, I'm not going to lie. We've had a tough month. Lots of nasty words lately. It takes a toll, you know. I'm not glad, but suicide is not easy to predict. Suicide? Bowden exclaimed. I just assumed it was suicide. She has bouts of manic depression since her boy was born, Gary said, instinctively taking a step back from the men. It was definitely not suicide. She was murdered, sir, Brett said, and his head still cocked to one side. You didn't answer my question. Were you not concerned by her disappearance? No, not really. She's always late and flaky. I thought that with the storm, maybe she's dated her sisters. Murdered. Where did this happen? When? Last night, sometime in the afternoon or evening. We're just beginning our investigation. Well, I was here all night with Jackson. You can ask, he answered quickly. The three men stood facing each other. An awkward silence fell over them. Finally, Bowden asked, Do you own a red Doberman? You mean Rascal? That was Sheila's mutt. He drank again from the mug. A waft of alcohol came from Mr. Gillen's breath. Both detectives smelled it. He was at the... Take it to the pound, fellas. It's a biter and not safe for Jackson. The man twisted back to the door. Well done. I gotta go take care of my son and finish getting ready for work. Not waiting for a response, he opened his door. Brett held out a business card between his fingers. Here's my contact number. You can call us for updates. Gary stopped and glanced back over his shoulder. Yeah, sure, thanks. He took the card and then shut the door in their faces. The pair stood in silence. Cold son of a bitch, Brett mumbled under his breath. Guilty as hell, Bowden replied. And that ends chapter 7 which ends our reading of The Eclipse Part 1 by Derek Barton. We're not done though. Just to, make that perfectly clear, we are having an episode next week, but instead of reading this novel, we're going to have two stories for double the terror. We're going to dive deeper into the twisted imagination of Derek Barton with not one, but two. Well, since I'm talking, I guess I could put Bob away. But not one, but two chilling short stories. We're going to do a haunting tale from Derek's Victims anthology, and we're going to do a short story that's a dark descent from the gates of hell anthology. Each story is a standalone, but together they paint a disturbing portrait of fear, survival, and the darkness hiding in human nature. And that's what we'll be covering in the next episode. And I look forward to everyone, showing up and seeing what that's all about. If you like The Eclipse or any of the short stories I read next week, check out Derek Barton's author page or Amazon, where you could purchase these. And if you would like to get a jump start on next month's author spotlight, we are doing A.L. Cooley's Spencer's Ghosts, The Guardian. So that this is February's spotlight of choice. So if you want to go ahead and order that, you can do that on A.L. Cooley's author site or on Amazon. And we will definitely be covering this in February. So I haven't got the short story books yet because it was a sudden change in schedule when we decided to do that, because I wanted to leave enough off. I wanted to leave you at a cliffhanger and enough interest that maybe you can go out and buy Derek's book yourself and find out what happens. But I hope you're enjoying this series. I have had a blast making it, and I want to thank all the authors that have contacted me interested in the author spotlight and the horror history and Hauntings Library. And as always, I want to thank you for watching, and I want to wish you good night and sweet dreams. Bye-bye, guys.